If you have aphasia and you have trouble finding your words, the game Scattergories can be a fun way to practice. Today, I'll give you 3 different ways to use this game for aphasia practice at home, even if you're playing by yourself. I'll also give you tips for how to adjust the rules based on your level of aphasia, and then at the end, I'll put up a practice round so you can give it a try for yourself. If you want a summary of what I talk about today, plus some practice pages, I've made a worksheet. It is Pay What You Can, and you can download it at the link below. Before we get started, I want to explain why this game works so well for aphasia. Basically, Scattergories is a word-finding workout. This game can help you think of words, put your ideas into categories, some flexible thinking to make you get outside the box a little bit, and talking through clues if you're working with a partner. And the best part is that you can make it as easy or as hard as you want. In this video, I'll show you how to adapt the rules to make it work for different levels of aphasia. Let's talk through the rules. First, you roll the letter die, and this is the letter that you're going to use for the whole round. In the real game, it's 12 categories per round, but you could always cut this in half if you just want to focus on 6. Your job is to think of one word for each category. You're trying to think of a word that fits each category and also begins with the letter that you rolled on the die. Here's an example. The first category is a boy's name. I'm trying to think of a boy's name that begins with B. I thought of Brian. Number 2, the category is cities. I'm trying to think of a city that starts with the letter B. I thought of Baltimore. Number 3, our category is things that are cold. Things that are cold, and it must begin with the letter B. I'm not coming up with anything right away, so I'm just going to skip it. Number 4, things you don't want in the house. That begins with a B. I'm going to write burglar. Number 5, sports teams. Has to begin with a B. How about the Broncos? All right, and you just keep going down the list like this. You can see that I'm using my letter B to start all of my answers. And sometimes you might not come up with one, and that is okay. Just skip it and keep on going. Option number 1, you can play by yourself. If you're practicing alone, don't worry about the timer or the scoring. Just roll the die or pick a letter that you want, look at the categories, and try to come up with a word that fits each category and starts with your letter. That's it. And you can take as long as you want. This is about practice, not points. Some of my clients even say that they'll leave the list on their kitchen table or their counter and walk by it throughout the day and see if they can think of another word. And sometimes this can be a great strategy. Just walk away from it, let your brain kind of keep thinking about it in the background, and then come back to it later. Another thing you can do if you're getting stuck is just to name as many things in the category as you can, regardless of what letter they start with. Let's say that your category is things that you eat for breakfast, and your letter is B, but you're having a really hard time thinking of anything that starts with a B. Just start naming. Cereal, yogurt, banana. We did it. Banana. Now you have one for your list. Here are some other optional tweaks if you're having trouble with this, and I'll also write these down on the worksheet that you can download below. First, I would only use common letters. Some letters are going to be easier and some are going to be harder. If you're having trouble, I would recommend only using these ones. They start a lot of words in English and you'll have an easier time thinking of words. Alternatively, if you roll the die and it lands on kind of a weird letter like K or J, just roll the die again. Get a different letter. Another thing you can do is skip any category that feels too hard. I'm not gonna lie, when I play this game, I do not always come up with an answer for every single category. Some of these are really hard. So if you're reading it and you're like, I cannot even come up with a single word that fits this category, just skip it. And lastly, another thing that you can do, instead of buying the actual Scattergories game, which does tend to be a little bit trickier, you can download my free worksheet and I'll give you some categories that are a little bit easier. You can download it below and start playing right now. By the way, if you want a weekly email with all my favorite aphasia resources and tips and tricks for how to practice at home, sign up for my email newsletter. You can find that at aphasiawithbree.com/subscribe, or you can click the link in the description below. Option number 2, you can play with a partner. Here's another way to play this game, and we're still not worried about the real rules. We're not using the timer, we're not keeping score, but this is a really good way to practice your speech. Do the exact same thing as before. You'll roll the die to get a letter, or you can just pick your own. You'll look at your categories and you'll try to think of answers. But instead of just saying your answer or writing your answer down, you will give hints to your partner so that they can try to guess what you're thinking of. This helps you practice talking around a word, using details, colors, how you use it, where you find it, all of those things that strengthen the pathways in your brain and make it easier for you to think of words. Let's say your letter is C and your category is things in the kitchen. I might say, I thought of something that is orange. It's a vegetable. You might chop it up and put it in soup or just eat it raw. I like to dip it in ranch. The other person would then have to say, yeah, carrot. I like this because describing it helps your brain get to the word in different ways. It's building more than just one pathway to the word carrot. It's building lots of different roads. Orange, vegetable, goes in soup, dips in ranch. And here is my speech therapist's secret. The more ways you have to get to a word, the easier it is to think of it and the easier it is to say it. So practicing all of these descriptors actually does you a huge favor. If this video has been helpful, please like and subscribe to my channel. That helps more people like you find my videos. All right, let's get back to it. Option number 3, you can play the real game using the real rules. To play the real game, you'll need at least 2 people. So you, someone else, and you can play with a bigger group if you want to. You play exactly the way we've been talking about. You'll roll the dice, get a letter, and have your categories. The difference here is that when you're playing the real game, you'll have a timer. So you'll flip this upside down and you'll try to write as many answers as you can while the timer's going. You also score each round. So when the time is up, you share your answers aloud. Anytime somebody has the same answer as somebody else, you both scratch it off and neither of you gets a point. So let's say the letter is B and the category is footwear. You're trying to think of something that starts with B that you put on your feet and you write down boots. At the end, when you share your answers, it turns out somebody else wrote boots. So you guys both have to scratch it out. But then let's say somebody else wrote Birkenstocks and nobody else has that answer. They would circle it and they get a point. So the goal here is to also come up with unique answers or things you don't think other people will write down. I think this is fun, but it is also really challenging. And I want to be honest with you here. This game is hard even for people who don't have aphasia. So please don't feel down if you're having a hard time with it. Also, if word finding is really hard for you, or you're playing in a group where you're the only one who has aphasia, maybe change up the rules just a little bit. You can still use the timer, but when it's done, have everybody else put down their pencils, and the person with aphasia gets a little bit more time, maybe a minute or 2. Another thing you can do is cut down on the number of categories. So on the real cards, there are 12 categories for each round, but you could always cut it in half and just do 6. Another tip is to use easier letters. So instead of using the letter die, you could just cycle between these letters right here. This will make it a little bit easier because they're common to start words in English. To me, these small changes can make it a little bit more fun and less stressful. All right, y'all, that's it for today. I know this can be tricky, but practice makes progress. Speaking of practice, I made a worksheet for today's video. I'll give you my tips and tricks for how to make it just a little bit easier or to adjust it for different levels of aphasia. And I'll also give you a few practice sheets with categories and letters picked out for you so you can start doing this right now. Be sure to download it at the link below. This worksheet is pay what you can, so you can put a 0 in that box and get it for free, or you can leave me a tip if you're able. This helps me keep making free videos and resources like this. If you want a weekly email where I send you all my favorite aphasia resources, as well as tips and tricks for how to practice at home, sign up for my newsletter. Again, you can find that at aphasiawithbree.com/subscribe, and I'll also put a link in the description below. The last thing I'm going to do today is leave a practice round up here on the screen. Write your answers in the comments below, and let's see what you guys come up with. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you again soon. All right, for the practice round, I'm going to give you 2 options. I'll put up one real Scattergories list, and I'll put up one list that I made that has a little bit easier of categories. Try to think of words and write your answers in the comments below.